You just got to pick yourself up by the bootstraps and say, okay, I'm not laying down anymore. I'm just so over being exhausted with my own BS. And that's where I make big changes, where I'm just like, I'm over me saying this stuff to the point where now it's either do it or shut up. Welcome back, everyone. This is Hold Strong. I am Nathan Marco, the host here, and this is where we're going to talk business, investments, what we're doing with our lives, motivation, and how to get where we want to go. So today, in the first couple episodes, I'm going to dress a little casual. It depends on my schedule and how I dress when it comes to the podcast. And today we're going to talk about beginning where it starts as the beginning. I know yesterday, I guess it would be last Wednesday, we talked about coming up and where my history came from, how I became an entrepreneur, how I kind of got started in business. Today, we're going to kind of tell you things that are going to pertain to you. I'm going to talk to you guys about how to get where you want to be, how I had to use some tactics to get where I want to be, the mentality that goes behind where you're at in the past, and kind of how you have to change things. Maybe open up the table here to talk a little bit about what maybe you're using right now that's probably bottlenecking you from trying some things you want to try. So I got a handful of notes here, so bear with me as I go through them just so I can keep track of what I want to talk about. So what I'm going to start with is in the beginning, we're going to talk about you wanting to maybe do the dreams you want to do, why you're not doing them, and what's kind of holding you back, the mentality you used to have and what you have now. So when we're kids, I'm going to take a second to go back when we're children, just because I think they're a good example to be used. When you're a child and you're not reminded or told anything, you don't understand life. You don't understand bills. You don't understand responsibility. You're just existing, right? But you can see the world the way that we see it as adults. Just you don't understand the parameters. And that is so important when you're trying to grow, when you're trying to be an entrepreneur, when you want to live out your dreams and you want to be wealthy and give a bunch back to your community and life. That comes from a relentless kind of attitude. It comes from an ability to be unreasoned with. And that relates a lot to children. If you look at a kid, right? If you have kids at all out there, and if you don't, I'm sure you know somebody that does. And you get a kid in an environment, and when they want something, two things will happen. They're going to want what they want, regardless if it seems realistic. That's one thing. And two, they're going to be unreasonable to get it. So think back of any time, if you have kids, you can probably relate to yesterday with your children. When you go to a store and you're going shopping, if they see something they want, they're crazy. They will literally almost threaten you to get it. They'll be like, look, mom or dad, I will tear this mother effer up if I don't get what I want. Like that's what their eyes are saying when they're talking to you. Like, I want this and I'm going to have it or I will tear this place to shreds. That's what they're doing. Because they'll kick, scream, they'll go crazy. And I'm not saying to do that as an adult, but that kind of mentality is what we had when we were born, right? So we were intrinsically designed wanting the world, just wanting everything, not understanding we can't have it. And that's how high production entrepreneurs get what they want. They resort back to that mentality. They just don't care anymore. So, they don't accept no for an answer. They're going to ask you. And if you say no, they're going to go to dad. And if dad says no, they're going to go back to mom and say, well, dad said it's up to you, mom. He doesn't care though. And they're going to manipulate whatever they got to do to get it because that's what they want. They want it that bad. And they'll sacrifice getting in trouble. They'll sacrifice fighting with their siblings. They'll sacrifice the next 3 Christmases. They'll make those crazy bargaining deals to make sure they can get what they want. And that's the kind of mindset you should be having to move forward in any business. Even if you're working for someone, you should be unreasonable with where you're at and want more. So let me scroll down here just a smidge, bear with me. So what happens is, though, is as we grow up, right, we're reminded by being around everybody else. The world is consumed with about 96, 98%, depending on the data you look at, middle class and lower class families, right? And when you're reminded at that large of a quantity on what life should look like, you're only seeing it through the scope of the people you're around. It's kind of like if you've ever done studies or have seen studies on fleas, right? Fleas have an 18 to 30 inch vertical jump. They can jump that high, a little flea can. If you put them in a container, like a mason jar, and you keep them there, and they'll jump a couple times, they'll hit the ceiling, the cap in the mason jar. For a couple days, they'll realize they can't jump any higher than that. And if you poke holes in it and let them live, after a day or two, you can actually take the lid off and they will never jump out. because they've created a parameter in which they think they can do. Now, they can still jump the 30 inches, but they've trained themselves to not do it because it causes pain or it's hard. They can't get past that ceiling. Even to the point that when they breed and have more baby fleas, they will see what's happening around them and take note, and they will also not jump any higher than everybody else. That's a true study. You can look and read about that. So when we're reminded by society that middle class is good and that lower class is just a smidge below middle class, and that what you want to do is make 50 grand or get a good pension, or maybe if you can make 100 or 110,000 bucks, you're killing it in life, when your actual potential is dramatically more. I mean, so much more. And it took me forever to even understand this. But that's a huge part. So your surroundings, who you are, that's why a lot of top end influencers tell you it's who you're surrounded by is an accumulation of who you're going to be. Because if everyone's telling you can and you can do more and you can have more, they'll facilitate ways and show you how you can. But if you're around everyone that doesn't have the same dreams you do, or is held down by that same mentality everybody else is bred to hold down, you won't go any higher than that ceiling on that mason jar. You'll just think that's the top. So, and that's true with humans or any creature for that matter. So we start negotiating with ourselves and say, okay, well, I wanted everything. I wanted to be rich. I wanted this badass life. I wanted to have a ton of money. I wanted to have 10 cars. I think little boys anyways, because for me as a little boy, and I had a bunch of friends that were little boys obviously as well, we all kind of had the same dreams. You know, we always talked about having no real details other than we want to have a bunch of Lamborghinis and cool cars, big mansion, and we want to buy a big complex where all of our family can live and have houses and all of our friends can live there. I think it's a pretty consensus thought pattern. And then we start negotiating as we start getting older that we can't do these things, or so we think, right? Even in high school, you probably have some mentality thoughts of being more or greater, or having like an internal feeling of significance, right? And then as you get a little bit older and life starts punching you in the face a little bit, well, you're not seasoned to it. So then what do? You go to somebody for advice. You go to the next closest person to you, mom or dad or friends, and man, this sucks. You know, how do you get more money? How are you affording the truck? And you're taking advice from other middle class people. Nothing wrong with the middle class other than I think they need to be upper class. I think they need to work harder, but we'll get to that. And you start taking advice from people that have never been where you want to be, right? They've never been mega rich. They don't have private jets. And I'm not saying that's where you have to be, but that's where your aspirations and dreams are, is to be comfortable, and not comfortable to the point where you're just going to negotiate the position you're in. Comfortable meaning you can afford anything you want. You have all the freedom in the world. Come and go as you please. Buy anything you need without the price being the objection. And so you negotiate with yourself. So you start telling yourself, well, I guess I don't have to have, I guess $1 million will come. In the meantime, I should probably take this job that's coming up because, you know, I need to pay the bills. So if I just take this job for now, and then as I get some money put aside, we'll probably do that other venture I want to do, and then I'll be rich. That's where the negotiation starts. And that's where the first problem of bad behavior, as far as like cognitive behavior, begins. You start telling yourself that you're accepting less than what you want, and that's the beginning strains of the behavior that you'll continue that pattern the rest of your life. And you won't even know you're doing it. It'll be bred into you and built in your mentality. You will literally start telling yourself that what you can and can't do the rest of your life. Well, I can't afford that, but if I save a lot and I sell this, I could probably get that. Instead of just raising the bar on the income. And you'll know if you're in that position. If you're that as an adult, you'll know, because when gas prices go up, when inflation happens, the first thing you think is, I'm being cheated. That the prices are too high. This is stupid. I can't afford what I could once afford now. This is dumb. I'm going to go broke. When the mentality should be like the entrepreneur, the wealthy entrepreneur, the top middle class, the top 1% says, I'm just going to make more money. I'm going to increase how I'm making my income. I'm going to double down. Because you can't control the prices of society. I can't control what car prices are. I can't control gas prices. I can't control what milk goes for. But what I have direct control over is my income. So for me to waste any time at all on complaints of things I have zero control over is asinine. It's literally anti-productive. The exact same amount of time that you'll spend complaining to your friends and family about all the things you have no control over, if you took that same effort and learned a new skill set, or learned about your business, or learned about what you're doing and how to get more out of what you're doing, you would literally be 10, 15, 20% greater and farther ahead, making that gap of difference. And you would outpace inflation. That's what wealthy people do. They learn to make more money when prices go up. So you'll end up, like I said, we're going to just circle back to the negotiating. You want to stop negotiating with yourself. You didn't want to table your dreams, although you did, and you had the intentions of coming back to them at someday, and then someday never comes. And even if you're questioned really hard about it, you'll almost get defensive because you'll start to realize that you gave up. You'll start to realize, because you're 30 years old now, you're 28, you're 35, you're 40 years old, and you're like, wow, where'd the time go? I was only supposed to do this for a minute. I was literally only supposed to do this until I got money set aside. I haven't even set aside money for 2 months' bills, let alone the dream I initially had before I had a huge encumbrance of bills. And just life gets a hold of you because you're reminded every day that those stars you were once reaching for are not possible. When they truly are, your potential is so much greater than you even understand. It's not luck that people end up making it when they make it. They just change the pattern of what they're doing. So, and when you negotiate long enough with yourself, you start to get comfortable. Now, I mean comfortable to the point that now that trying something new is looked at as a risk. When you were younger, it was looked at as an opportunity. You're like, boy, I can't get rid of all this stuff I'm doing right now. I got bills, I got a house, I've worked too hard to get here. I can't let go of those things. And that's asinine to even think, because you'll never achieve it any other way. You're going to have to. So now these opportunities that are coming up are no longer even looked at as opportunities. That's why when wealthy people run ads, or they talk about money that can be made in their business, or if they try something new, they're being honest. But we don't see it that way. We're just like, well, yeah, if I didn't have a family and stuff, I would probably do that. Well, if I didn't have kids, I'd probably move. If anything, those are incentives to do it, not to do it. You're looking for reasons to say no because the fear of saying yes is so great. Because it's been too long since you've done something different. It's kind of like if you were younger and you played a sport or you rode roller coasters when you were younger, and then you get older and haven't done it in 20 years, to get back on it again, even though you know it's probably for your best interest, you'll have a blast doing it, it's hard to take the step. Even though you know, and you see people getting on and off over and over and it's not hurting anybody, you, for some reason inside of you, fight it. It's been too long. You've already given yourself reasons why you shouldn't, and you're solidifying them with a foundation of how you believe. But that exact same pattern of decision making that's got you to where you're at now, the comfortable stage you're at now, is the exact pattern that's preventing you from getting where you want to be. You've sold yourself that comfortable is okay, that my dreams are negligent, that they'll just never be achieved. I don't know why I thought of them anyways. This is more realistic, and you never, ever get them. And the worst part is once you sell yourself all the way, because you are your best salesman. And you guys know that, because I could tell you anything I want to, but if you don't believe it, doesn't matter what I say, you'll walk away believing what you believe. You'll come up with reasons, like if you could be watching me right now and, well, yeah, Nathan, but you don't know my story. You're right, I don't know your story. But I can give you examples of people that were in your story that made it. And they're undeniable. And if they can do it, what one man can do, another can do. So if someone has done it already in your scenario, or a worse scenario, it can be done. It's just, are you willing to give up something now to gain something greater? And most people are too scared to do that. So, and comfort only looks good in a standalone scenario. Being comfortable, well, I'm okay with what I'm doing. I kind of like my job, Well, then why are you playing the lotto? Well, I could always use more money. Why? You're comfortable. Everything's good. If I offered you a business where you made 10 times what you're making right now, you wouldn't take that business. Even if it required more work hours, you wouldn't do it. Most of you would say yes. If I said I could offer a position right now that's $1 million a year, who wouldn't take it? But I thought comfortable was good. Well, yeah, you're not offering me $1 million. But life is offering it to you every day. The opportunity is there every day. but you've trained yourself to see it as a scare tactic, as a bad scenario, as a risk, instead of as your future. So your lens that you view life through it gets foggy as time goes on because you're reminded every day that 50 to 100 grand is good, that 100 grand to 150 is tremendous, when so much more society out there is making more. And the reason that matters, even if people say, well, I don't need more money, I got everything I want, that's a selfish tendency. That's very selfish. And you might hate me. I might get a lot of flack for this, but it's selfish. Let me at least tell you why. Let me at least make a case for it. It's selfish because when you negotiate it out of your dreams and you accept comfortable or middle class or 80, 100, 150 grand a year, when your potential, your true potential is maybe 2 or 3 million, and you're accepting that 150 as the top, you're failing you, you're failing your wife, you're failing your kids, you're failing your church, you're failing your friends that you maybe give opportunities to. You're failing everybody because you're selfishly choosing you. I'm too comfortable. I don't want to try. I don't want to try. It's too hard. I've already done all the work to get here. Well, so with that mentality, then when your kids act up, you just give them away. When your kids get rough and they start having like a real bad week, and if you have kids, you understand this, where they're just constantly acting up, or you and your wife or husband are having a hard time, we're done. Talk to you later. No. You work through it because you know the end goal is greater than the current circumstance. You know your kids are going to be all right in a little bit. They're going to get past it. It might be years, especially when you first have a child and they're crying every night. And it's like a year of that where you'll see a new mom or a new dad and they got like bags under their eyes and they're like, oh my God. And the first thing they say is like, when are you going to have a kid? And you're like, dude, that looks so horrendously terrible. I do not want to have one because you look so rough. But the scenario is that they know the end goal is worth it. The love of what they're going to get is so much greater than the current task. Their eye is on the prize down the road. They're playing the long play. They understand this is not forever. So just use that same mentality with your business, your life, your job. Just understand that this is a short-term thing. It will hurt. It's going to suck sometimes, but it's going to get better because you're trying, you're wanting more, therefore you'll find more. Opportunity doesn't just slide through on a Wednesday afternoon on an idle day in the week when you're just having lunch in your cafeteria at your job. No one's going to walk through and say, hey man, I've seen you in here working a lot. Do you want to just, I got a big business I just want to hand over to you. You want to take it? I think you got the skill set for it. Tell me on one hand how many times you've seen that happen in your life. It's not. You have to seek it. You have to be in the field, around those people, around that environment to find those things. So the mentality has to shift. Middle class is middle class because they've chosen middle class, not because they can't have more. They've accepted that as their circumstance. They've accepted it as their place that they're going to be and live and die. And you don't have to do that. You don't even have to love money to want more. But if you go to church and you want to donate and build a bigger branch, how do you do that? Money. You don't like homelessness. You want to help make a cause to that. Money can cure homelessness. Buys food. If you have medical expenses for a rare disease or something that your insurance doesn't cover, and the treatments are only in another country, which happens quite significantly, how do you take care of that? Money. And if you don't think money is worth sacrificing or making, look at your wife, your husband, your kids when they're going through something like that and say, God dang, if I would have just tried 5 years ago, if I would have took a chance 5 years ago and done something great, maybe I could have fixed this right now. And then if you are so sold on your complacency, what your response in your mind is right now is, well, yeah, but what if I try and I fail? How many jobs have you had till now? There's a ton of failures. How many girls or guys did you date before you found the right one? Life is full of failure, but you didn't date the first girl and it not work out and you say, well, I'm done. Single for life. Not going to work. No. You go to the next one, you try again because you know the goal. And even though you've never had marriage before you've had it, you're looking for it. You're not giving up because you know that's the right end move. That's what's going to make you the ultimate happiness. It's hard to have wealth without having your love life satisfied as well. You have to have both. It has to be a marriage. I know a lot of wealthy people that aren't happy in their marriage life, and I know people are happy in their marriage life, but are not happy in their financial life. And when you see the number one reason for divorce right now in the United States is money, it's a money argument. We can correct this. It's not inherently connected to us. You don't get born into poverty and have to stay in poverty. You don't inherit a bad life. The only thing you inherit is a bad circumstance. But you can come out of that. You dictate how long that lasts. And you dictate what you do with it, how you see it, the meaning you give that circumstance. And I know you guys know people, and maybe you're one of them, where you sit there and bad things happen and you bring everybody else down with it. You know, you're in such a bad mood, you can't wait to drag everybody. Oh, I can't. Here's Joe coming into work. I can't wait to drag his ass down. He's always in a good mood. I'm just going to make his positive attitude just junk by the end of this day. You know, you don't think that like out loud, but you just can't wait. You're that one negative person, you know, you can't, anything you tell them, it's not good enough. Everything you're doing that's good, there's always a hole that you didn't see, that somehow you're going to be a failure for it. Like those people are out there, but we privately do it to ourselves and we judge a lot of that internally. So those things need to change. Another big thing that needs to happen that I see a lot, is the order in which we put importance in our life. And a lot of people, if I ask a mom, this is very traditional with moms particularly, in my personal experience, is that when I ask them the order of life, they say, well, it comes God first, then my kids, then my husband, and then me. And when you look at life that way, you will never serve your kids the greatest potential or opportunities that you could. You end up failing. And the reason that is, now I'm not saying you're a failure, you're just failing in comparison to what you could be. That's what I said. Comfort is only good when it's a standalone assessment. When you compare good to great, you no longer want good, you want great. But good looks good when there's no great to look at. So you shield yourself from it. You don't want to know about great things that happen. You always make fun of or talk bad about people that are doing great things. Oh, he's probably a scam artist, or he probably stole it, or his daddy left him the money, or he's an inheritance baby. It can never be good, because if you swallow that they actually worked hard to get there, then you have to swallow that you didn't. And that's hard. That's the number one thing I think that we struggle with in humanity is assessing ourselves. Our mirror, our lens, is typically on a day-to-day basis a one-way mirror. It's only allowed for me to point at you and not backwards. I'm not allowed to see what I'm doing. I only need you to see you and where you're failing. So because that happens, we never assess our own stuff. We never truly believe it's our fault. We never truly put the blame on us to correct it, so it never gets corrected. We just keep saying, well, if you did this, or if my boss just gave me the best leads, or if there wasn't favorites in my job, or, you know, they always just hand him the deals, or, oh, he's the boss's favorite, so he gets promoted when he wants to. If you'd stop that and just start being undeniable, you'll automatically get it there. And stop thinking that, well, not in my job. Then go to a different job where it's valued. Well, it's everywhere. That mentality is untrue, and that mentality is what's keeping you where you're at. So that needs to change. But you need to, in order to not fail the church, not fail yourself, not fail your kids, you got to put you first. Well, God first, if you're religious, right? I'm religious, so I put God first in my life. And then I do me. I put me first. Because I can't provide for my wife and my family the way that I need to unless I'm at full optimization. And if I put her and the kids and everybody else first, I suffer as last. Then I'm a shell of what I should be. Then when things go wrong, I can't help. Not the way I should be able to, because I didn't put me first. So moms and dads out there, especially if you're single, put you first. It sounds hard, but I hope you understand the message here. Put you first so you can be the best example for them, so they can have opportunities you normally couldn't give. You're going to have to make some sacrifices in the beginning. Your surroundings are important. Who you're around is important. I'm sure you guys have all heard this stuff. You know, you're an encompass of your income. They usually say, I've seen some studies that show your income is within $5,000 of your closest 3 to 4 friends. I'm sure you've heard a saying somewhere along those lines of you are who you hang with, and show me your friends, I'll show me your future. You know, I'll show you your future or whatever. There's a bunch of sayings that go, but it couldn't be more true. It really is, because who you're around is who's influencing your life. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be greater, you want to be a business owner, you want to do something outside the norm, it's hard to find endless support. What you end up finding is people that scrutinize, push you down, decourage you on what you're wanting to do, finding holes in the story or in the business plan where it could fail. And then next thing you know, you're so sold on what they've said because it's come to you in abundance, you start to negotiate with yourself again. Well, dang, it took me so hard just to get up the courage to want to do this. Maybe I shouldn't do it. I never thought about this, and this. Those are instances that are going to come. Just pour full force towards what you're going to do. Take on everything that comes to you head on, just like life. When you're born and you grow up, you're just flying through it, man. You don't even know what's coming. You don't know what's going to go on in the next 10 years, but you're going to hit it as hard as you can in hopes and with planning for the best. So let me see down here, important surroundings. I just touched base on that. So just because it's hard does not mean it's worth it. So some people say a lot. I hear a lot of, that's a lot of work, man. I'm too old. I've been doing what I'm doing for 10, 20 years already. I'm only 10 years from retiring. What does that mean? That's almost like the battered wife syndrome. Like, well, he beats me, but I've been with him for 10 years, so I just better stay. That doesn't even make sense. It's not even logical. So all you say is, when I've been doing this for 20 years, so I better stay another 10. There's no logic there. It's just saying, I've done this for 20 years. What you should be saying, I've done this for 20 years. I've let go of my dreams for 20 years. I don't want it to be another 10. I don't want to say in 30 years, I did the same thing over and over and didn't progress, that I didn't reach my full potential. I reached the ceiling in what I was in, but not the ceiling of me. And when you're doing that, that should be more scary, knowing that you're just going to stay the same. Knowing that the same decisions that got me to middle class or upper middle class are the exact same decision-making patterns I'm using to keep me here. And I'm not saying that in a safety way. I'm saying that in a bad way. Because when opportunity comes up and you protect yourself and you say, no, man, I've been here for 20 years. I don't want to make a change. It's just too late in the game. I got kids now, man. I can't risk that kind of stuff. That's the same decisions that got you to negotiate with your dreams. That's the same decision pattern that's got you to not be a millionaire by now. So you need to ditch the internal pitch. Stop telling yourself intrinsically that I need to be safe, I need to be safe, I need to be safe. No one in the history of mankind got something great or became someone that helped move a nation or help people or create a better life playing it safe. Sorry to tell you. Don't want to break the news. But you can't. You can't play it safe at the top. You can be educated, but there's going to be massive risk. And just so you know what that's going to feel like when the time comes, if you're curious about what it's like, or how do I know that I'm doing the right thing? How do I know? Let me tell you something. I'll give you a tip right now. This is one of many, but I'll give you one that's super big and important. I've never reached anything in my life. I've never leveled up in my life, ever, in any circumstance, any business, without first having to give something up. And I don't say that lightly. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. It's going to feel like it's something you shouldn't be doing. It's going to feel like something you've worked for. It's going to go against every grain in your body. And that could be downsizing your house back to a studio apartment because, having a $1,500 a month mortgage with bills being $1,800 in total is too much. Too much for me to try this dream. It could be downsizing your BMW or whatever your nice new truck is back to an S10 from 1998. And you might be like, I'll never do that. Nope, I'll never do that. Well, I hope having a new truck is worth not being a millionaire. I hope having a new truck is worth not having a better life for your family. I hope having a new truck is worth putting in 60, 70, 80 hours a week at your job and not seeing your kids. Because that's what it ends up being. We're here for a cup of coffee, folks. We're not here forever. This isn't a practice life. You don't get to work this one out once and the next life try it again. This is it. So you better take chances. Jobs are out there in a plethora. And if you don't think so, go on Indeed, go to any hiring site, go to Monster, and you will see thousands, if not tens of thousands, positions available. There is no shortage of jobs, not even in the slightest. If anything, right now, they're more in abundance than ever before. So what there's not an abundance of is your risk level. So just a reminder so you understand, in case you're really curious, in case you want to take that leap, it will seem, everything inside of you will tell you no. What you're doing, it's almost like jumping off a cliff when you're trying to jump in the water. Have you ever done that, or cliff dived, or a roller coaster your first time, when you're like, oh my God, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. And then you get off and you're like, oh my God, I want to ride this 45 times. It's just like that. The first time you go to kiss a girl and you're just like, or a boy, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to have a heart attack. I'm literally going to die and pass out in front of this person. And then you do it and you can't stop doing it. Especially when you're a kid, you do it for like an hour at a time, which is not what I do as an adult. It's more like, hey, hi, and goodbye now. But when you're younger, it's like the most fascinating thing in the world. But it's always, you got to take that first leap. Anything great that you will ever do that you'll be proud of will be with mass effort and risk that came with it. If you have children, it was a risk. You probably didn't have the dream job you wanted. You didn't have life all the way worked out, and you sure as heck were not prepared to have a child. But then you did. And you figured it out. And then now, could you ever go back? Absolutely not. Even with all the trouble to give you the strife, the tribulations, the fights, you would not trade that for anything on the planet. You just wouldn't. Because now you know how great greatness is. Comfortable without kids is comfortable. It's a lot harder with a family. But once you have a family, once you see what greatness feels like, you'd never go backwards. Not in that sense. So with your finances, being comfortable, that's great. You don't know what greatness is. You don't know what you don't know. Money does not make you evil, because that's what we're bred. Inside, we're bred that way. Tell me if you don't know these slogans. Money is the root of all evil. Right? A penny saved is a penny earned. That's what it comes from. We're ingrained from birth that money's bad. Money don't grow on trees. Save, save, save. Right? Don't take risks. Get a job. Get a good pension. Get a good insurance. That's what we're taught. We're intrinsically built in that way. It's wrong. It's all wrong. The advice we're getting is from people that have never been to a destination that we want to be. We want to be wealthy. We want to be better off. We want to be in a better place. We want a bigger house. We want more money for our kids, not just to give our kids, but to provide a better life. We want better vacations, bigger ones, and we want to go for as long as we want to go, not for how long my job tells me. I want to take days off when I'm really sick, or I just don't feel like it, because I'm just having maybe a day, right? I need a break. I don't need to ask another adult if I can do that. I am an adult. I don't need permission to be sick. Well, you don't have enough sick days. You got fired if you take the day off. So you're forced to work? What kind of life is that? You don't understand how much you're giving up every day by just not putting yourself first. So to wrap this up, because I know it's getting kind of long, we're over 30 minutes already, and I want to keep these listenable. I don't want them to be like an hour and a half long. Some podcasts are so long you can't even get through the whole thing. I don't want to do that. I want to make sure there's always meaning here for you to take away. But just remember, life is not ever going to treat you like a lotto ticket. It's not going to be comfortable, then one day you just hit it. It'll never be that way. It'll always be massive sacrifice, and then you'll regress back to the biggest version of yourself. The potential will be at its all-time peak. And every time, I don't care what level you're at, it will take massive sacrifice again to get there. So if you're doing that, if you feel like you're giving a lot up to make this move, good for you, because you're going the right way, and continue to have that feeling. And when you start making those transitions, you start making those feelings, and you start doing them more often, you'll get more comfortable being risky.